Did you know that in some parts of Australia, the average house price has soared past $1.3 million, while wages have barely moved in years? Once hailed as one of the best countries to live in, Australia is now facing a silent crisis that's pushing ordinary people to the edge. The sunny dream is fading, and for many, survival has become a daily struggle. From skyrocketing grocery bills to packed emergency rooms and never-ending rental applications, life in Australia is no longer just expensive. It's becoming impossible. Families are being forced to downsize, young people are delaying their futures, and migrants are stuck in limbo, wondering if they made the right choice. And it's not just about money. Stress, burnout, and anxiety are on the rise too. So what exactly is going on? In this video, we're breaking down the 10 biggest reasons why living in Australia has become a battle, and why so many are starting to question if it's even worth it anymore. Number 1. Skyrocketing housing costs. Imagine working full-time, saving every cent you can, and still being unable to afford a home in the country you grew up in. That's the harsh reality for millions of Australians today. In cities like Sydney and Melbourne, the median house price has soared past $1 million, making home ownership feel like a distant dream for younger generations and first-time buyers. The situation isn't much better for renters. Vacancy rates have dropped to record lows, and the competition for rental properties is brutal. Families are attending rental inspections with 40 or more applicants, often offering well above the asking price just to secure a place to live. For many, rent now consumes more than 50% of their income, leaving little for savings, emergencies, or even basic comforts. Experts say that property speculation, limited housing supply, and overseas investment have all contributed to the surge in prices. But while investors profit, everyday Australians are left behind, stuck in a cycle of rising costs and stagnant wages. Even in regional areas once considered affordable, prices have climbed dramatically as more people flee the big cities in search of relief. This housing crisis isn't just about numbers, it's about security, stability, and the ability to build a life. When shelter becomes a luxury, something is seriously broken, and with no real solution in sight, many are left asking, can we really afford to live here anymore? Number 2. Rising cost of living. When even a basic grocery trip feels like a luxury, you know something's gone terribly wrong. Across Australia, the cost of everyday essentials, food, fuel, electricity, and basic household items has soared. Families who once lived comfortably are now tightening their belts, cutting back on fresh produce, skipping meals, and turning off the heater to save a few dollars. A recent survey revealed that more than 1 in 4 Australians are struggling to afford necessities, and the pressure is growing. Grocery bills have surged by up to 20% in just a year, and many items that used to be staples, like eggs, dairy, and meat, are now seen as occasional treats. Fuel prices fluctuate wildly, but they rarely return to levels that feel normal. Even public transport and childcare have seen steady price hikes, eating into already stretched budgets. Utilities are another stress point. Power and gas bills are reaching record highs, leaving families to make difficult decisions between staying warm in winter or putting food on the table. And while inflation impacts most of the world, Australia's high dependence on imports and its geographically isolated markets make things even worse here. What makes it all feel even more unfair is that wages haven't kept up. So while costs climb, incomes stay frozen, squeezing the middle class and pushing vulnerable people deeper into poverty. Many Australians are finding themselves asking, how did life get so expensive so quickly? Number 3. Wage stagnation. What good is a job if your paycheck can't keep up with the price of living? That's the question haunting millions of Australians who are working just as hard, if not harder, than ever, but seeing little to no growth in their earnings. Despite rising inflation, housing costs, and basic expenses, average wage growth in Australia has remained painfully slow for over a decade. Between 2012 and 2023, wages in many industries increased by just 1 to 2% annually, while the cost of living jumped by much more. This gap between what people earn and what they need to spend is leaving households squeezed, frustrated, and increasingly desperate. It's not just a working class issue. Even professionals and skilled workers are feeling the pinch. For young Australians, the dream of financial independence is slipping away. Many are forced to live with their parents well into their 30s, delay starting families, or give up on buying a home altogether. The so-called Australian dream of upward mobility is fading fast, replaced by economic anxiety and long-term insecurity. Experts blame a mix of factors: global economic shifts, weakened unions, automation, and policy choices that have favored profits over fair pay. And while some industries, like tech and finance, offer higher salaries, they are highly competitive and not accessible to everyone. When hard work no longer translates into a better life, people start to lose hope. Wage stagnation isn't just about money, it's about dignity, opportunity, and a future worth looking forward to. Number 4. Healthcare accessibility challenges. Australia is known for its universal healthcare system. But what happens when that system becomes too overwhelmed to cope? For many, getting timely medical care has become a frustrating, even frightening experience. Public hospitals are under immense pressure, with wait times for surgeries, specialists, and even emergency care reaching all-time highs. It's not unusual for patients to wait over 12 months for procedures like hip replacements or cataract surgery. In rural areas, where hospitals are often under-resourced and understaffed, the situation is even worse. Some Australians have to travel hundreds of kilometres just to see a specialist or sit on a waiting list that stretches into the next year. Those who can't afford to wait often turn to private healthcare, but that comes at a steep cost. Private health insurance premiums have increased every year, and out-of-pocket expenses are rising too. For many families, these costs are simply unmanageable, forcing them to choose between their health and their finances. Mental health support is no exception. Access to psychologists and counsellors is limited, with weeks-long wait lists and high fees discouraging people from getting help. The result? Growing levels of untreated anxiety, depression, and burnout across all age groups. Australia's healthcare system still saves lives, but it's buckling under the weight of demand. When getting help becomes a privilege instead of a right, people begin to feel abandoned. And for a country that prides itself on equality, this growing healthcare gap is both alarming and heartbreaking. Number 5. Education costs and student debt. They say education is the key to a better future, but in Australia, that key now comes with a heavy price tag. University fees have surged over the past decade, especially for popular degrees like law, business, and the arts. Many students are now graduating with tens of thousands of dollars in debt, only to enter a job market that's uncertain and underpaying. The government's HEX Help loan system was designed to make education accessible, but inflation is quietly inflating student debt at a troubling rate. In recent years, indexation has added thousands of dollars overnight to existing balances, making it harder for young Australians to get ahead. What's worse, these debts are often invisible burdens. No monthly bills, just silent growth in the background. International students are hit even harder. With tuition fees often triple or quadruple that of local students, they face incredible financial stress. Many juggle multiple jobs just to survive, while also battling restrictive visa rules and high living costs. Even basic tools like textbooks, laptops, and transport aren't cheap. And when part-time work doesn't cover the bills, students are forced to make tough choices, skip meals, cut back on study time, or take on even more debt. Higher education was once a stepping stone to stability, but now, for many, it feels like a trap. When the cost of learning outweighs the reward, it's no surprise that more young Australians are asking, Is a degree still worth it? If this video made you stop and think, even for a second, drop a comment below. We read every single one because your voice matters. And hey, if you believe in real stories told right, hit that subscribe button. Just one click fuels everything we do. Number 6. Climate change and natural disasters. Australia is no stranger to extreme weather, but in recent years, it's gone from seasonal nuisance to national emergency. Bushfires, floods, and heat waves are no longer rare events. They're becoming frighteningly frequent, and their impact is growing deadlier by the year. The 2019-2020 bushfire season, known as the Black Summer, scorched more than 17 million hectares of land and claimed over 30 lives. Entire communities were wiped out. And just a year later, widespread flooding in New South Wales and Queensland left thousands homeless. These disasters are not isolated. They're part of a pattern driven by climate change, and Australia is on the front lines. Rural towns are being crushed economically, while city dwellers face rising insurance premiums and property damage. Crops are being destroyed, food prices are spiking, and ecosystems are struggling to recover. The emotional toll is just as severe. Climate anxiety is growing, especially among the younger generation who fear what the future will look like. What's worse? Many feel the government isn't doing enough. Climate policies often lag behind public demand, and support for disaster recovery is slow and inconsistent. Meanwhile, families are left to rebuild their lives with little help, wondering when the next catastrophe will hit. Living in paradise isn't so easy when paradise keeps catching fire or flooding. For many Australians, the question isn't if their area will be affected, it's when. And that fear is driving more people to ask, is this still a safe place to call home? Number 7. Urban overcrowding and infrastructure strain. Australia's big cities were once the envy of the world. Clean, spacious, and easy to navigate. But in recent years, rapid population growth has turned them into crowded hubs struggling to keep up. Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane are bursting at the seams, and the cracks are starting to show. Commuters now face longer travel times, packed trains, and gridlocked roads during peak hours. What used to be a 20-minute trip to work can now take over an hour, with no relief in sight. Public transport is under constant strain, and delays are more common than ever. Schools and hospitals are also feeling the heat. In many suburbs, classrooms are overcrowded, with teachers stretched thin and resources running low. Hospitals, especially emergency departments, are seeing record patient numbers, resulting in longer wait times and reduced quality of care. The pressure doesn't end there. Parks, recreational spaces, and even footpaths are becoming more congested. Infrastructure development simply hasn't kept pace with population growth, and many communities feel neglected or left behind. While growth can be a good thing, poor planning and lack of investment have turned Australia's urban boom into a burden. New high-rise apartments spring up every week, but without the services and infrastructure to support them. For those living in these cities, life is becoming increasingly stressful, chaotic, and disconnected. And with housing pushing more people into already packed suburbs, many are starting to wonder, is city life still worth the cost? Number 8. Limited job opportunities in regional areas. Not everyone dreams of city life. For many Australians, regional towns offer peace, space, and a stronger sense of community. But there's a harsh trade-off. Job opportunities are scarce, and career growth is often stalled. Outside of major urban centres, finding stable, well-paying work has become one of the biggest challenges facing regional residents. Manufacturing and agricultural jobs, once the backbone of regional Australia, have declined significantly due to automation, outsourcing, and shifts in global demand. While industries like mining or tourism still provide employment in some areas, they're highly volatile and not accessible to everyone, especially young people just entering the workforce. The result? A quiet migration of talent. Young adults are leaving regional towns in search of better opportunities in the cities, leaving behind aging populations and struggling local economies. Small businesses suffer from a shrinking customer base, and public services face funding cuts as populations dwindle. Even those willing to stay and build a life in the regions are often forced to settle for part-time, casual, or low-skilled work, making it difficult to achieve financial security. Remote work could offer a solution, but reliable internet access and digital infrastructure are still lacking in many rural areas. The dream of a quiet country life is real, but without meaningful work, it's hard to sustain. More Australians are being forced to choose between the lifestyle they love and the jobs they need, and increasingly they're asking, why does opportunity only seem to live in the cities? Number 9. Immigration policy and visa uncertainty. Australia has long been a top destination for migrants seeking a better life, but in recent years, that dream has become tangled in red tape and uncertainty. Constant changes to immigration policies, shifting visa rules, and longer processing times are leaving thousands of individuals and families in limbo. For skilled migrants, the pathway to permanent residency has become increasingly complex. Visa requirements are stricter, quotas change frequently, and processing delays can stretch for months or even years. Many are forced to live in a state of uncertainty, unable to plan their future, buy a home, or even feel fully settled. International students who once saw Australia as a gateway to global opportunities are now questioning if the high tuition and living costs are worth it. Post-study work rights are limited, and competition for permanent residency spots is fierce. Some return home with massive debt and no clear path forward. Family reunification is another painful challenge. Some parents wait over a decade to join their children, and partner visa applicants face both emotional stress and financial strain as they navigate a complicated system. The emotional toll is profound. Stress, anxiety, and a constant fear of rejection overshadow what should be an exciting new chapter in people's lives. Australia risks losing talented individuals who feel unwelcome or unsupported. When policy becomes a barrier instead of a bridge, the question grows louder. Is Australia still the land of opportunity or just another broken promise? Number 10. Mental health crisis. Behind closed doors, an invisible epidemic is growing, and it's hitting Australians harder than ever. From rising living costs to job insecurity and climate anxiety, the daily pressures of modern life are taking a serious toll on mental health. What was once a silent struggle is now a national crisis. Recent reports show that 1 in 5 Australians experience mental health issues each year, and the numbers are even higher among young people. Anxiety, depression, and burnout are becoming common, not just in workplaces but in homes, schools, and even among retirees. And while awareness has improved, access to care hasn't kept up. Psychologists and counselors are booked out for weeks or months. Sessions are expensive, and government rebates often don't cover enough. Rural communities suffer even more, with a severe shortage of mental health professionals and limited outreach services. The result? Many people go without help until it's too late. There's also a growing stigma, especially in older generations and among migrant communities, making it even harder for individuals to speak up and seek support. The emotional weight of constant stress, combined with the feeling that nothing is improving, can be overwhelming. Mental health doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's deeply tied to every issue we've discussed: housing, work, education, and the environment. When the system fails in these areas, it doesn't just break wallets, it breaks spirits. And that's why more and more Australians are asking, are we really okay or just pretending to be? Australia is still a beautiful country with stunning landscapes, rich culture, and resilient people. But beneath the surface, cracks are forming. For many, the dream of a stable, happy life here is slipping away, replaced by stress, uncertainty, and a daily fight to keep up. We've uncovered 10 powerful reasons why life in Australia is becoming harder. from unaffordable housing and soaring living costs to mental health struggles and visa roadblocks. Each issue on its own is challenging. Together, they paint a troubling picture of a nation in quiet crisis. This video isn't about doom and gloom, it's about awareness. Because only by understanding the problem can we start working toward real solutions. Whether you're an Aussie feeling overwhelmed or someone watching from abroad, it's clear. Something has to change. So what's your take? Are these challenges part of your everyday life? Or do you see a path forward that others might be missing? Let's keep the conversation going.